And I told you it was a lot of information we were going to give you. So homeowner insurance does not cover flood or mud damage. New policy takes 30 days to activate. I'm not sure if that's just a statement or a question, but you're right. Most homeowners insurances do not cover that. You may want to check to see if there's any, I know there's some state insurance for earthquake. I don't know if it covers that function, but you need to work on that. Is there a plan to reseed the hillsides? John, I think you get this every year. What it would take and how it's not really possible.
Yeah, that treatment was evaluated after the fire with an interagency team that was evaluating. We called it a burn area emergency response, where we have a team of scientists that look at what can we do to try to mitigate the effects of the fire. And seeding is often one that we discuss and has been used a lot in the past. The challenge is if you don't get moisture that comes in after you seed at the appropriate amount and distribution, it's not effective. And probably the data pretty much shows that probably 90% of the efforts over the last 30 years where we've been doing that, less than maybe 10% of the time it has been effective, where Mother Nature has helped us get the seed going. That being said, there gets to be a challenge is if we put non-native seeds, if we put grasses up there, then you won't get the chaparral back, which is what we want to get, is the native vegetation back. And there is not enough native seed that is grown commercially to treat any kind of sizable area of more than really 100 acres or more of native seed. The soil out there typically has a pretty good seed bank. So seeds come, they'll fall off, they'll be in the soil, and that's why they call it a seed bank. A number of plants are also root sprouters. Some are both, root sprouters and seed. And what we hope is that we have a good moisture regime that naturally that vegetation will come back up. This year, or the last 4 years, is obviously with the drought, hasn't worked. But seeding, in most cases, we're not using anymore, just not effective. Or what we found out 2 or 3 years afterwards, if we didn't seed, and if we get good moisture, the native vegetation is coming back quite nicely without the long-term effects of changing that native vegetation. So.
Thank you, John. I'm going to ask the person who wrote this question to probably come up and talk to our Public Works and the Public Works people because I'm not sure why this is occurring. But anyway, I live in a fire impact area on Glendora Avenue, north of Sierra Madre. The fire road at the end of my street is not cleared, and the entrance is blocked by 2 rows of sandbags. 2 rows of sandbags. Is the main entrance to our street is blocked. Us residents have no other way. How will this be addressed? I don't think we put the sandbags there, so I don't know if one of the homeowners in that gated area put it up there. But if you could talk to Dave Davies over there after this, and we'll take a look at that and see what's happening up there, please. A couple questions. What will the debris basin's upper portion off of Glendora Mountain Road be? Will the debris basin off of Glendora Mountain Road be completely cleared out of trees and brush? Pat, up in Big Dalton, I suspect.
Well, what I can tell you is all of the debris basins that are in the Colby fire areas, that they're ready for storm season. They have been cleaned out on there. In regards to any debris basin that is outside the fire area, sediment gets cleaned out of there when the debris basin is 25% full. And that's when we go in and clean out the debris basins. Again, let me repeat, that is for debris basins that are outside the fire area. For debris basins that are in the fire area, that clean-out trigger goes down to 5% full. When it's 5% full, then we go in and clean it out. The debris basins after the storms, they do get checked and monitored by our flood maintenance division to see if the clean-out triggers are reached. and then they'll go in, and then they will arrange for the cleaning out of the debris basins.
Our next question is, during the last fire, some palm trees with dead palm fronds caught fire. Do you warn or cite residential homeowners who do not clean up these trees? Yes, we do. We, through code enforcement, will go out and take a look at the situation and do that. So if you have information, feel free to give the code enforcement people a call or an email, and they'll go out and take a look at the site. Oh, one more coming? Okay. I'll read the first one. Did Glendora officials have emergency plans in order the day before the fire happened, Colby fire? And I will ask Chief Enriquez and our chief to talk about their emergency plans that we did have in place.
In terms of emergency plans, we have protocols and trigger points, and that based on the predicted wind events, we call the burn index, we'll upstaff and have those in place. Regarding the Colby fire, we were not upstaffed that time. We were aware that we did have a potential wind event, and it did occur that morning. The fortunate thing about being here in Glendora, us working very closely with our fire services, we have protocols in place and we have processes in place, which means when we have a fire that we start immediately and we start requesting additional alarms. We're very fortunate here in LA County and this region is that we do this very well. We do it all the time. LA County Fire happens to be the Region 1 coordinators, which means we're constantly monitoring the assets, fire assets in 5 counties. We are the controllers of those 5 counties. We monitor the fire assets in LA County, Orange County, Orange County, San Luis Obispo, Ventura, and let's see, LA County, but 5, what's the other one? But anyway, 5 counties. But we do have in Kern County, so that's the 5th one. So that said, we are the Region 1 coordinators, so when a large fire does trigger, whether brush or a greater alarm, we do have this process in place. We're constantly moving assets. In this case, coincidentally, it was us 3 chiefs when that occurred. John was the incident commander back there, John Lennon, and then John Flores and I, we work hand in hand as operations. So things that make us mesh together and work well is that we use a common operating process, and that's the incident command system. So we know how to escalate our resources, the staff plan, do the forward planning, and as this event escalates, so does the support mechanisms. Brenda came in, she coordinated a lot of evacuations with the sheltering, she coordinated work with the city, and likewise the equine. So that said, the plans may not have been in place in advance of the Colby fire, not that we did the forward planning, but they're always there. Why? Because we do it all the time. We do it all the time as an organization. We do it as a community. Here in the LA region, Brenda works with the 25 cities. We work very closely with her. So the emergency management process, the response process, both on the law branch and the fire branch, we do that very well. We do it very frequently. And so that said, no, there was not a plan in place specifically for the Colby. But what we do, we take the existing plans, and we apply those, and they work very well. And now, that said, when we do have the known substantial wind events, we do upstaff. In fact, one thing I failed to mention is part of our upstaffing and readiness for a potential mud flow event, when we're staffing up, we are moving resources. We're moving them here in advance, pre-staging our our front loaders, our urban search and rescue personnel. We're organizing task forces in advance. So we do look at that, and those will be the trigger points, and that'll be consistent with the activation of the EOCs and then your awareness. But again, as mentioned, we do depend quite a bit on you as the individuals to help us help you.
Chief, did you want to add anything? Okay. The next question, can the Colby area be impacted by fire again, even though everything on the hillside has been burned and is mostly dirt?
Absolutely. However, to not that degree. We look at fuel and the radiation of the release of energy and heat. Much of that heat has been released. Nevertheless, there's still a lot of foliage, I notice, as we drive around that's still up against many homes. So we cannot let our guard down. We have to be vigilant, and more importantly, you as homeowners have to maintain a defensible space. Even though we still had to burn, and certainly in the Forest Service, there's some areas that are still limited growth, but still around your homes, as I drive through neighborhoods, and I even see, even as a consequence of the Colby fire, we still have a lot of vegetation very close to homes that will contribute to threatening your homes and a wind-driven fire, wind-driven brush fire. But again, one thing about wind-driven fire, it may not be just a fire in your backyard or nearby. They carry embers and debris for half mile and miles. So you got to still, we still, all of us still have to maintain that defensible space. And as long as there's vegetation nearby and it's dry and it's burned, it can burn. So.
Thank you. Can Dennis Staley please tell us again how many cubic yards flowed down Rainbow Drive on the '69 flood?
I believe it was estimated at 1 million cubic meters.
1 million cubic meters. How many 40,000 cubic yard debris basins does that equal?
Measures that are in place that will prevent the channel erosion that contributed a huge amount of material to that total. So those crib structures that are in place, they're going to stabilize the stream channel, they're going to decrease the velocity of the flow, and they're going to allow for some deposition. So those are going to keep in place a very large percentage of that.
So for our TV audience, that we're saying is we don't have the calculator to do that calculation, but the important thing is a lot of infrastructure improvements have been made by County Public Works for additional debris basins, enlarging the ones that did exist, plus the crib structures to help deflect or slow down the speed of some of those river of water. So a different scenario now that is to the positive from that process. I have been told that the flood insurance does not include mud flow and does anyone know if it does or does not? Absolutely. Most of your homeowners policies probably exclude mud and flooding from that. So again, it's just another important step to remind yourselves to protect your house with some of those measures that Pat talked about of deflecting mud at the driveways, keeping it away from the glass areas of your lower part of your house, sliding glass doors, windows, doors with plastic and sandbags to help protect your property even from a little of that process going through. What is the process for getting support for clearing flood-controlled dams on private property? Pat?
Well, what it is that when it comes to removal of debris on private property, this is not authorized to go on private property to remove debris. Where we are authorized to remove debris when it's when it's in our facilities.
So it's a tough decision, but most updates property to effectuate change. I know we have taken sort of an extraordinary step is if property owners can get the mud or debris out into the street area, we've offered ourselves, the city's picked up the tab to go pick that up and get rid of it because it's expensive to get rid of dirt and mud from your house. So we've tried to lessen that financial burden. But if you have big lots and you have mud on that, you're going to have to spend your own money or get volunteers to help move that. But most public agencies won't step onto private property just because of the liability, both current and future, that we expose the taxpayers to from that standpoint. This is regarding the dam at Glendora Adventist Church property near Sierra Madre and Glendora Avenue. The dam is completely full.
That is that's a stream stabilizer. So that is a facility that's not meant to be cleaned out. It's not a debris catchment facility. That's a stream stabilizer. It's meant to stay there, and it's quote unquote meant to stay full. It's a part of a series of crib structures that again form a stair step down a steep slope to try to slow down the flows. So it doesn't. So it's not going to withhold debris. It's not going to catch back debris. What it does do is that it slows down the rate of erosion, try to cut down on the amount of sediment that's going to be making its way down. It's going to be making its way down the water course.
To slow down the speed. It's not meant to hold back or capture from that standpoint. It's only meant to slow it down from that standpoint. How long before sandbags issued by the city with plastic skins need to be replaced? Dave?
If you cover them with plastic, they should last a good year. If you don't, I guarantee you, we're actually out starting today to take out the sandbags we put by the K-rail that's about a year old. They're starting to deteriorate. So, but they will last a year, and when in the dry season, if you cover them with this piece of plastic, they could last a little bit longer.
So the sun, just like it hits your skin, the storage of the sandbags, just as bad. So it is a good warning that that's another step that you should be doing, is taking a look at your sandbags, making an assessment of their condition. If they're already starting to shred, they're not going to be any use for you. As Dave said, we'll have more sandbags available, so you should replace them out and take those steps now before that. But it's a great opportunity to remind yourselves to go visit your and make that assessment. The next one of these questions really doesn't have anything with Colby. It has to do with irrigation on the Route 66 street medians. So if that person wants to come and ask, we'll be happy to answer that question off the side. What is the difference forms of flood warning and real flood warning? I guess, Mark?
I guess if I can understand the question, it's, I don't know if you still have the slide there, Chris, but we issue flash flood watches, and we issue flood advisories and flash flood warnings. The important part is the flash part. We do issue flood warnings. Those are for main stem rivers, which aren't an issue here, obviously, but a flash flood warning, meaning that either mud and debris flash flooding and debris flow is either imminent or occurring. Now, as you've heard it said many times, it's not 100% accurate. And I know over the past 18 months there have been situations in which a flash flood warning was issued and nothing occurred. It's very challenging with science. We constantly have to be aware of issuing as accurate as possible these warnings and watch out for our false alarm. Because we know if we just issue these things all the time, you guys may not do anything. I want to point out another thing too. There may be a situation in which a flash flood warning has been issued and yet the city is not in an orange or a yellow or a red. And that may have been because it might be more of an isolated thunderstorm that has developed. It's not these situations where, especially if we go into a yellow, orange, and red, in many situations there are these kind of larger storms that might last for a couple of days and there's lots of planning ahead of time. But every once in a while, some of these things pop up. As Chris mentioned earlier, we've got lucky in this area. There's rain gauges not only in the burn area, but out around the burn area. We have had situations in which rain gauges outside of the burn area did far exceed our thresholds for flash flood warnings. So there was that they're like a stool there, a little bit of luck. So just wanted people to know flash flood warnings aren't the do-all, be-all, but we do take them very serious. And hopefully, if it's in that situation, especially with some of these bigger storms that may occur this winter, you've already heeded their instructions and evacuated as they've asked you to.
That concludes our session. I want to thank you very much again for taking time. And again, hopefully this has been very helpful to you. And we look forward to seeing you over the next few months. Thank you.